Live and direct on pay-per-view from the Richfield Coliseum in the Great Lakes in front of 20,273 fine WCW fans. It is the highly anticipated WCW Superbrawl 2. We have finally arrived. Tonight is the night and we've got some amazing action on tap, highlighted by the long time anticipated main event for the World Heavyweight Championship, with the total package defending against Sting. That's right, it'll be Lex Luger and Sting. And we also have not just the World Tag Team titles on the line, but the US Tag Team titles on the line in the same match. Everything up for grabs when the Steiner brothers take on the Dangerous Alliance's enforcer Arn Anderson, and he will not be teaming with Beautiful Bobby tonight. If you saw the last episode, you will know that Beautiful Bobby Eaton sustained a back injury, unfortunately just days before this pay-per-view. So we shall see who the Dangerous Alliance have designated to be the replacement partner filling in Eaton's shoes tonight. Also, speaking of the Dangerous Alliance, their United States champion, Ravishing Rick Rude, will be defending the United States title against Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. And also in Dangerous Alliance business, it is Dangerous Alliance member the Cruncher Larry Sabisco who has been assigned the task of trying to bring the television championship back into the Alliance's camp when he does battle tonight with the TV champion Smoking Barry Windham. In a grudge match inside a steel cage, we shall have Stunning Steve Austin against the Gentleman Chris Adams. That's a really heated one there, with history going back well before their days in WCW. We shall have Vader versus Cactus Jack. That should be a wild one. We'll have Ron Simmons versus Mr. Hughes, and we shall have the WCW Light Heavyweight Championship on the line when the Japanese sensation, the reigning champion Jushin Thunder Liger, tries to stop Flying Brian Pillman regaining the title that he so wants back around his waist after losing it at the tail end of 1991. So without further ado, let's get straight into the action. We have a pre-show bout. Terra Tonga of the Powerplay faction, the newest member of Hardy Race's group, he defeats Jumping Joey Maggs via way of submission after 6 minutes with 44 seconds of action. And the Asian Spike got that submission, and Hardy Race did some good work at ringside for his client, and Terra Tonga had an in-ring performance of 58. And now we move on to the pay-per-view. This is what people paid to see. Let's get to it. And our pay-per-view coverage begins with a video hype package narrated by the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, if you will. And he speaks about all of the backstory that's led to the highly anticipated main event with the World Heavyweight Championship on the line between Lex Luger and Sting, former friends turn heated rivals, and that bout will take place tonight. Tonight is the night. Dusty Rhodes improvised well throughout the segment. He was given the freedom to ad-lib in this pre-taped video package. So after that 67 segment rating, we move on to our first match of the evening, and it is a good one. It's an exceptional technical masterclass, scoring a 71 rating. Ravishing Rick Rude manages to retain the United States Championship, making defense number 4, defeating Ricky the Dragon Steamboat in 17 minutes 51 following a pinfall. But this was not without scatterings of controversy and interference. So we'll start with the presence of Paulie Dangerously and Medusa. They were both there at ringside, using every underhanded tactic they could think of to help Rick Rude out. Fortunately for Steamboat, he did have Wendy Richter at ringside with him to counteract some of the interference. In the closing stages of the bout, Wendy Richter and Medusa were engaged in a wild brawl outside the ring. The referee was distracted by this. He was also distracted by Paulie Dangerously, who was deliberately making a nuisance of himself. But then we had some surprise goings on when Diamond Dallas Page, who is not a member of the Dangerous Alliance, walked out out to ringside and distracted Ricky Steamboat, and this laid way for another appearance, the appearance of the Diamond Stud, who entered the ring with the ref's back turned, and he struck Ricky Steamboat, and it was this final interference from the Diamond Stud that paved way for Rick Rude being able to deliver the Rude Awakening and keep Steamboat down for the match winning count of 3. So some questions definitely raised in this one, especially with the surprise appearances of Diamond Dallas Page and the Diamond Stud, but Rick Rude walks out of this one controversially as he entered it, and that's with the United States Championship. Ricky Steamboat and Wendy Richter, they made a good pairing, playing off each other well, and the in-ring performance of both competitors was good, with Rude having an in-ring performance of 85 and Steamboat a little bit more than that, an 88. Good stuff overall there. And some of the questions that were raised in that United States Championship bout are quickly answered, because following the bout, as Ravishing Rick Rude celebrates his successful defence of the US Championship alongside Medusa, the camera picks up Paulie dangerously. He's engaged in a conversation with Diamond Dallas Page, and he hands an envelope to Diamond Dallas Page. A smiling DDP, he takes the envelope, presumably loaded with cash, and he pats the Diamond Stud on the back before taking his leave from the ringside area. The Diamond Stud then walks over to Paulie dangerously, smiling from ear to ear, and the two men share an enthusiastic handshake. "Welcome to the Dangerous Alliance," we hear dangerously telling Stud. So it looks like a financial arrangement was met between DDP and Paulie dangerously. DDP handing over the services of Diamond Stud to Paulie dangerously and the Dangerous Alliance. A 60 rated segment there. We then have a bout with good heat and decent wrestling as Ron Simmons defeats Power Plays Mr. Hughes, scoring the victory via pinfall following the spinebuster in 10 minutes 25 seconds. Hardy Race did some good work at ringside on behalf of Mr. Hughes. Ron Simmons had an in-ring performance of 63, and that segment scored a 55 overall. And then after this, we had a very good 75 rated segment where Dusty Rhodes joined Jim Ross and Jesse the Body Ventura at the commentary booth, and Dusty Rhodes and Jesse Ventura got into a bit of a back and forth as they discussed the upcoming World Championship match between Lex Luger and Sting, with Dusty charismatically pleading the case as to why Sting is going to find it his night and he's going to walk out tonight. Destiny's going to be on his side, if you will, and he's going to be walking out of here tonight with the World Heavyweight Championship. Whereas Jesse Ventura very passionately countered Dusty's argument, saying that tonight is Lex Luger's night and Lex Luger will be leaving the Richfield Coliseum just as he enters it, and that's with the World Heavyweight Championship around his waist. And Jim Ross has to interject between Dusty and Jesse, who are still bickering back and forth as we lead into the rest of the show. And next on the show, it is our television championship encounter with the reigning champion, Smoking Barry Windham, successfully knocking back the challenge of the Cruncher Larry Sabisco, defeating Sabisco via pinfall in 15 minutes 33 seconds following a superplex. The bout had great heat and good wrestling. During the bout, we had stunning Steve Austin interfere and try to distract and attack Barry Windham. If you'll remember, it was Austin who lost the title to Windham, so there is a grudge there. But then we had Gentleman Chris Adams appear on the scene and counteract Austin's interference, getting into a brawl with Austin. This is before their scheduled steel cage match later on the pay-per-view. So Barry Windham makes defence number 2 of the World Television title, 63 rated match, and it succeeded in getting the crowd hotter. And following the bout, as the ring crew desperately tried to assemble the steel cage for the scheduled bout between Gentleman Chris Adams and Sonny Steve Austin, because they're already out there, why not get to that match now, right? The two rivals cannot wait though, as Austin and Adams, they brawl with one another within the ring, and the brawl then spills out to the ringside area. Barry Windham, fresh off of retaining the World Television Championship, he's still at ringside, having been jumped post-match by Larry Zbyszko, who, surprise, surprise, hasn't taken his loss well. After 2 wild brawls, security manages to get Windham and Zbyszko to the backstage area, and with the steel cage now successfully assembled, Adams and Austin are ushered towards it and into it, where the steel cage match can begin. In a decent wild brawl within the confines of the solid steel cage, Stunning Steve Austin defeated Gentleman Chris Adams following pinfall after a stun gun in 12 minutes and 2 seconds of action, but this was not before Adams looked to have victory secured, and he was exiting the cage via the door, only to have the cage door slammed harshly into his skull after the surprise appearance of Stunning Steve Austin's wife and Chris Adams' ex-wife, Jeannie Clark. That's right, Jeannie Clark surprisingly on the scene here, helping her husband score the win over her ex. So Austin wins this one with help from Jeannie Clark, and she had an initial rating of poor for her old school valet gimmick. Not sure whether we will use Jeannie going forth or whether this was just a one night return. Paulie was also at ringside doing some good work for Austin. Austin had a in-ring performance of 67, while Adams was a bit below that with a 49. We then have a bout with good wrestling and a decent reaction from the crowd, a strong rated 71 segment. Big Van Vader defeated Cactus Jack in 16 minutes 7 seconds via stoppage when the referee just had to jump in. Cactus Jack was not responding to him anymore after receiving just really hard to watch amounts of punishment, and Cactus Jack just does not know when to quit. During this match, he even took a stump bump off the ramp, a power bomb off the ramp to the thinly padded concrete floor, and that would have kept most men down, but Cactus Jack was back in the ring with a grin on his face, ready for more punishment. He just did not know when to quit. So to stop a tragedy occurring on pay-per-view, the referee just had to do what he felt was the right thing and give this match to Big Van Vader via way of referee stoppage. The match got the crowd hotter. Big Van Vader had an in-ring performance of 74, Cactus Jack with an in-ring performance of 69, and they had great chemistry together, Vader and Cactus Jack, and that showed in their performances. Very happy with how this one turned out. And then, following the bout, which got the crowd hotter, we move into another strong segment, a 74 segment, and Cactus Jack had to have a stretcher job following the bout, but unfortunately, Vader, the monstrous Vader, was not through dishing out punishment. He pulled Cactus Jack from the stretcher, and he looked set to deliver a power bomb to Cactus Jack, dropping him. That was the plan anyway, to drop him down onto the stretcher. Fortunately for Cactus Jack, a well-timed rescue arrived on the scene in the form of Ron Simmons, who battled back and forth with Big Van Vader, saving Cactus Jack from further punishment. A flock of security rushed onto the scene to get Ron Simmons and Vader separated. We then have a tag team bout designed to give the crowd a bit of a cooler, and in that token, it delivered the job, but got a decent reaction from the crowd regardless, despite some subpar wrestling. Big Josh and Elegante, they defeated the Tailor-Made Man and Greg the Hammer Valentine in 7 minutes 37 seconds of action, with Big Josh getting the match-winning pinfall over Greg the Hammer Valentine. And Elegante, surprise, surprise, was the weak link in this one. The best performance of the match was a 56 rated in-ring performance from the Tailor-Made Man. We then have a disappointingly rated hype package for the upcoming Light Heavyweight Championship clash between Jushin Thunder Liger and Flying Brian Pillman, only a 39 for that segment. And then we move on to the match itself, a 54 segment rating, a decent match. Brian Pillman defeated Jushin Thunder Liger in 11 minutes 37 seconds via pinfall following the Air Pillman. The match was designed to revolve around a lot of high spots, and Brian Pillman has won the WCW Light Heavyweight Championship. It is now back around the American's waist, and In something I find quite strange, Brian Pillman and Jushin Thunder Liger didn't seem to click, and it made for an awkward bout. I find that strange because anybody who's familiar with their work in reality knows just how these guys delivered the goods every time they were in the ring together. So disappointing with that being held in regard there, but a decent match regardless. Would have liked more out of these two, but it is what it is. And moving on, we have a strong rated segment between Liger and Pillman following the bout, because in a classy show of respect, Jushin Thunder Liger hands over the WCW Light Heavyweight Championship to its new rightful holder, Flying Brian Pillman. Following this sportsmanlike gesture, Pillman offers Liger a handshake. The two competitors then shake hands, with the WCW fans cheering both wrestlers on. Very happy to see the segment get a 70. I would have liked the match to actually get that kind of score, but never mind. Pillman was superb working without a script, and he had the crowd in the palm of his hand the entire time. Paulie Dangerously heads out to the ring with Dangerous Alliance member and one half of the WCW World Tag Team Champions, the Enforcer Arn Anderson. Dangerously takes the microphone and says that due to a back injury suffered by beautiful Bobby Eaton, the Dangerous Alliance has had to find a replacement partner to join Arn Anderson into going into battle tonight with the Steiner brothers and succeeding in the Alliance's mission of bringing back another set of championships. Tonight, proclaims Dangerously, Arn Anderson will be joined in securing the United States Tag Team Championships while retaining the World Tag Team titles in the process by a man he knows oh so very well. Arn, you sure you want to go with this choice? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you textbook Tully Blanchard. A 65 segment rating there. And Tully Blanchard has returned with an egomaniac gimmick, and it has got an initial rating of great. So it's a 60 rating for our double tag team title match. It's a good match, and the Steiner brothers managed to defeat Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard in 13 minutes 55 seconds after Scott Steiner pinned Tully following the Steiner screwdriver. The Steiner brothers win the WCW World Tag Team titles to go alongside the United States Tag Team titles that they made defense number 2 of. Tully Blanchard was the weak link in this one, struggling to keep up with everybody else's in-ring performance, and indeed in the match, despite their tag team pedigree, their credentials in the past, there was communication errors with Anderson and Blanchard, and Anderson was showing some visible frustrations towards Blanchard, as was his manager, Paulie Dangerously, from the outside. So the Steiners had their usual bonuses for their great tag team chemistry, and Anderson and Blanchard also got a tag team specialist bonus. Paulie Dangerously did some great work, well, some good work to be precise, at ringside. And following the bout, Rick and Scott celebrate becoming the new WCW World Tag Team Champions, and those belts will go alongside the United States Tag Team Championships that they successfully retained. So when it comes to the Tag Team Gold here in WCW, the Steiner brothers currently have it all. Will they defend both of those belts, or will they unify them perhaps? Time will tell. 56 segment rating. And it's main event time, and it's a bout that gives us fantastic heat and good wrestling to go alongside it. And Sting defeats Lex Luger in 13 minutes 43 seconds via submission attained by way of Scorpion Deathlock. The match was designed so that the wrestlers could go out and try and steal the show, and Sting has become the new WCW World Heavyweight Champion. And the match got the crowd buzzing. Luger had an in-ring performance of 57. Sting was 20 above that with a 77 performance. At least Lex Luger didn't phone it in this match, which could have happened. He could have given us a really bad performance here, given that he is out the door. This will be his last match with us, but he didn't. So fair play to him for that. And after that 69 rated segment, we Finished the pay-per-view with a 74 rated segment, the pay-per-view closing with a firework display on the entranceway as Sting celebrates becoming the WCW World Heavyweight Champion in front of some very enthusiastic little stingers. So our pay-per-view gets an overall rating of 69. We didn't quite hit the 70 mark, unfortunately. So while we lost popularity in 3 regions, we increased popularity in 3 regions. So that's a fair trade-off. I will take that. We would have gained popularity in 2 other US regions, but growth was restricted due to the limited number of views there. So all in all, I'm quite happy with how that pay-per-view went, and I was quite concerned actually about the main event, because I really worried that we would get a real dud of a main event there, given the morale of Lex Luger. But he did deliver for us, so fair play there. And very happy with the Big Van Vader Cactus Jack match. And I've got some big plans for Vader going forth. And also Rick Rude and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, they gave us quite a good opener for the United States Championship. So could it have been a better pay-per-view? Of course it could have been, but it could have been far worse. And 3 loss, 3 gain. So we balance out quite nicely there. So yeah, I'll take that. And let's address the locker room, and let's praise Sting up. Let's praise Ricky the Dragon Steamboat up, and Cactus Jack put in a great performance in defeat, and he took that stump bump for us as well. So I will compliment Sting on a good performance. I will compliment Ricky Steamboat on a good performance, and I will point Cactus Jack out as a good example. Yeah, that's what we'll do. Sting was pleased, Ricky Steamboat was pleased, and Cactus Jack was pleased. There is our financial report, our popularity recap. So we lose a bit of pop in the Mid-Atlantic, and we lose a bit of pop in the Southeast, but we have gained in New England, in the Northwest, and we've also gained in the Tri-State. So it's swings and roundabouts there. I'm not too concerned about losing as long as we're gaining somewhere. And we'll have our media scrum now. So taking on the role of Eric Bischoff, let's see what questions the media have got for us. Jim Ross and Jesse Ventura, they were a painfully awkward duo on commentary. So yes, this is something that I have noticed, and we've used this pairing enough now, Ross and Ventura, and I am definitely going to change it going forth, especially when it comes to our pay-per-views. We can try out different combinations. We can try out Tony Schiavone and Jesse Ventura. We could probably put Dusty Rhodes back on commentary. There's lots of different commentary duos we can experiment with. So what I'm going to say here is I don't want to upset anybody here. That pairing didn't work as well as hoped. We'll change some things around. I think that's the answer I'll give, without singling out one or the other with one of the answers from below. So I think that's the best answer to give there. You've hired Robert Gibson recently. How do you see him fitting on the roster? Let's have a look-see of the answers on display. He will have to work his way up the ladder. There's no free rides in WCW. That's what we're going to answer there. My response went down well with the locker room. That's good to know. We know that Lex Luger will soon be departing WCW, but what are your thoughts on the subject? I'm going to say I wish him luck in his future endeavours. He didn't phone it in on the pay-per-view. So he came in, he did the job. He put Sting over, so I'm not gonna bash the guy. I wish him luck in his future endeavours. And Superbrawl 2 is being considered a success. How do you feel? And I'm going to say I'm delighted that it went so well. That's what I could say, but I'm going to say it was a good show, but we can still improve upwards and onwards, because yeah, I definitely think we've got grounds for improvement. I definitely want to see our pay-per-views get higher ratings than what we got tonight going ahead. So that's the answer. I think that's the most honest answer to give. And, well, more questions. You have two workers, Chris Adams and Jeannie Clark, who despise each other. Are you planning to address this? And I'm going to say I'm going to sit down with them and work this issue. No, I'm going to say as long as they remain professional, I don't intend to get involved. Yeah, that's the answer I'm going to give. Because I'm not even sure if Jeannie will be an ongoing character. It was just the right way. It just seemed the right thing to do on this night, given the history. It was an obvious. It was an obvious story thread there, and it was a way of giving Austin the win in a way that would make sense. So I will give that top answer. As long as they remain professional, I don't intend to get involved. Don't want to unneedlessly ruffle any feathers. And your response, which showed a lack of leadership, it didn't seem to take into account how bad the relationship got. Didn't go down well with the locker room. Oh dear. More questions. By all accounts, Lex Luger is very angry with how his WCW career is going and may be looking to leave. Well, we know he's leaving. Is this something you're considering? And let's have a look. I'll sit down with him and listen to his complaints, but I probably won't because we know he's leaving. My response was appreciated by Lex Luger. Good. And looking at the big stars in WCW, not a single one is under the age of 30. Surely this must worry you. What happens when the current generation of stars start retiring? Yeah, that is something to consider. The plan is to push some of our current younger wrestlers really hard to turn them into stars. That's the answer. And my response, please, Scott Steiner. Wonderful. And that's the media scrum completed. And that is Superbrawl 2 completed, a show that overall I'm quite happy with. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great Christmas. See you on the next one.